Hey guys, Darren Asbury here with Revital Outdoors, bringing another exciting podcast. Tonight we're going to go to Buggs Island, Kerr Lake, and we're going to interview Mr. Tim Kowalewski. He got a top 10 finish last year in the BFL tournament there, so very, very excited to talk to him. He and I have already been talking before this podcast, and I really think you're going to enjoy this podcast and talking to him and talking to another top 10 angler on our podcast. So bring him in just a minute. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. That way you get notified when all of our content is dropping. And then also check us out on Facebook and Instagram, Revital Outdoors. And if you've never heard of us before, we're a premium CBD company for all outdoor enthusiasts. We have a great product. We're THC free. We're broad spectrum. We're made right here in America. Check out all of our products on our website, revitaloutdoors.com. And if you're interested, we do have a very, very strong, probably the strongest pro staff program in the industry. So fill out the application on our pro staff tab. We'd be happy to review that and get you accepted into the program. So that being said, very excited to bring him in, Mr. Tim Kowalewski. He fishes Buggs Island, as he calls it. He got top 10 last year. So how you doing this evening, sir?
Hey, good, my friend. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, doing great. So Buggs Island, that means you're on the Virginia side, correct?
That would be what we call it here in Virginia. Yes, sir. Now, if you're on the North Carolina side, you call it Kerr Reservoir. But over here in Virginia, don't do that. Call it Buggs Island. We call it Buggs Island over here.
Okay, cool. So before we came on the podcast, man, you and I were just having a great conversation talking about how Buggs Island, Kerr Lake, a lot of great success has come from that lake. We were talking about how David Dudley, Jacob Porosnik, David Fritz, and John Cruz, some of the other great anglers. We're even talking about Hall of Fame anglers have cut their teeth on that lake. So you got a top 10 last year. You kind of understand it a little bit. You're fishing again this year. I looked up your resume on Major League Fishing. You've got a great career on Buggs Island. So tell us a little bit about what makes that lake so special. And then why are you so damn good on that lake? Because you've got a heck of a resume.
Some of it's luck. So I'm going to go with that first. But secondly, Buggs Island, it's a unique fishery in that it fishes. There's three different parts of Buggs Island, and they all fish a little bit differently. So you've got the the southwestern or southeastern part of Buggs Island, which is what I think is where you want to be in the springtime of year. I don't want to give away all my spots, but I'll tell you, you want to spend some time down in that southeastern part of Buggs Island. Then you've got kind of mid-lake area. And then you've got up the river, up the Dan, up the Roanoke River. And all three of those areas, fish very differently. So starting, southeast down around Nutbush, you could have fish that are post-spawn there, and you've got male on the bed guarding fry. You go up the Dan River or up the Roanoke, and you could have fish just moving up on the bed. So fish is completely different. So you've really got to pay attention and listen to what the fish are telling you, and don't fish history. That's your worst mistake. And I've made it, believe me. But don't fish history. You gotta understand what the fish are telling you. A couple things with Buggs Island. Obviously, water temperature is critical this time of year because it's a spawning season, and water temperature, moon phase, it drives that spawn. The other thing about Buggs Island, it's a flood reservoir. So what that means is the water level rises and falls depending on the time of the year. If there's a big rain event, if you have a lot of snow, and ideally for me, this time of the year, I want Buggs Island to be at what's called full pool or higher. Full pool at Buggs Island is 300 feet above sea level. I like it around like 302. So the water's up in those bushes. Right now it's at like 298. So it's a couple feet low, but historically, if you look back historically, you can go back a lot of years. Historically, about the 1st of March through March, the water rises and they hold back. They don't release as much through the dam. And I think they do that maybe to get the spawn going. I'm not sure. I'm not into those decisions, but I know looking back historically that water should be come 1st of March, middle of March, it should be in that 300 to 302 range. There have been years where, it's at flood level, 315 and higher, but for the most part, 301, 302. And what that allows me to do, it allows me to get into those bushes where those fish are going to be set up to spawn and really pick them apart. That's how I like to fish. I'm a shallow water guy. I like a big rod, 30 feet of line, and as big a weight as I can possibly put on the end of that, and a 5/0 hook. That's my kind of fishing. Although this time of the year, that's one part of your arsenal. The other part, you have to be, unfortunately, an open water guy. And I can throw a crankbait or anything with anybody. but I like the close combat fishing that Buggs Island affords us with the bushes and the higher water. So, this time of year, I'll have on tied on, I'll have a rattle trap tied on, I'll have a jerk bait tied on, but I'll also have, some kind of creature bait on a flipping stick and a big hook just to punch down into those bushes and haul them out of there. I'll tell you one other little secret about fishing bushes. Now, bushes, when you look at a bush, you got a million limbs going everywhere. The sweet spot on a bush is at the middle of the bush. If you're going to throw at the limbs, the fish, they're not going to come out and grab it. You got to get that bait at the middle of the bush, at the base of that tree, in some of the most horrific spots that you could imagine. That's where the fish is going to be lying. And yeah, you're going to get hung up. You're going to break off. You're going to get snagged. But if you're not getting snagged, you're not getting hung up, you're not catching fish either. So you got to get your bait in there.
If you're not getting hung up, you're not fishing where they live, just straight up.
Yeah, exactly right. They're an ambush predator. They love cover, and you got to be in that nasty cover to pull them out of there. So little tip, get to the base of that bush, whatever you got to do, get your bait in there. That's where they're going to be living. And you get it near them during the spawn, they are going to attack it. No doubt about it. No doubt. So they don't want you there. They're territorial. Those big females are hungry. So.
All right. Well, you're speaking my language already. Flipping bushes in the springtime, high water, going up shallow. Love it. Absolutely love it. So break down your flipping setup here. Are you using fluorocarbon or braid? You said you were using a 5/0 hook with a weight. How heavy of a weight do you typically fish Buggs Island? You said you fished a creature. I'm just curious. You don't have to give it away too much, but what kind of creature bait, maybe a color that you're throwing this time of year on Buggs Island?
Yeah. So my setup on Buggs Island, I will try and use, if I'm up a creek and there's no wind blowing, I'll typically have 5/16 or 3/8 ounce tungsten. I do use braid. I use 30-pound braid. I'll use a 20-pound fluorocarbon leader. With that 3/8 ounce weight, I'll probably be using a 4/0 hook. And it'll be, I got some of my boats right over here. I would grab them, but it'd be like a 4/0 trocar flipping hook. If I go to a larger weight, like up to a 1 ounce, then I'll go to a 5/0 trocar flipping hook. But for a 3/8 ounce, generally a 4/0 is plenty fine. As I said, I do use braid. For the bushes, 30 pounds seems to work fine. I try not to get too big, but 30-pound works fine with a 20-pound fluoro leader. My rod, because I'll use typically from like a 7.3 medium heavy to a 7.6 heavy. It depends on the weight. So if I'm using like a 5/16 weight, it'll be like a 7.3 medium heavy. And the Cast King rod's a medium heavy. It's a pretty stout rod. Cliff O'Shea put some time into some of his rods. I have a couple behind me, but they're pretty stout rods. So it's not your typical medium heavy like you would think of for most rods. But I do like a little shorter rod for that bush, for that fishing, because shorter rods, it gives you better accuracy and control than a longer rod. The reason I do like a 7.6 at times is because if I need leverage to pull them out of deep bushes. So let's say Buggs Island's at 315 feet and those bushes are down deep. I'm going to put on that big 1/2 ounce weight and that 7.6 rod. I'm still going to get it down to those bushes, but I need that big rod and leverage to haul them out of there because you can't let the fish stay at those bushes or they will wrap you around that bush. So you got to set the hook.
I absolutely love that setup that you're talking about because you can just absolutely crack them. And I feel like with that setup, a 7.6, 7'7", even a 7'10" rod, that kind of medium heavy. So not a pool cue, but that medium heavy 1/2 ounce, 3/8 ounce weight. I just feel like when you crack them, you can absolutely just control everything about that fish, getting them out of those bushes.
And that's what's key. I'll tell you, last year, I took an 8th place last year. And I went out in the morning and I caught a quick limit of small buck males doing what I don't like to do, and that's throwing a rattle trap. I did catch some flipping, but I knew that in the afternoon when that water warmed up, those females were going to slide into those bushes. And so the last, let's say, hour and a half of the day, I went to a spot that I had found a school of baitfish. And on my graph, it showed, the bass out deep eating those bait fish, and I was catching them all day. And then I left and came back. The bait fish were still there, but the bass weren't under them anymore, but they were up in those bushes. So the last hour and a half of the day, I switched over to that big rod. I had a 3/8 ounce weight on it. It was a 7.3 rod. And literally in about a 200-yard stretch, I called out 4 of the 5 fish I caught previously. And the 5th fish, and as I was mentioning to you before, I never believe these fish stories. The big one that got away, that guys always tell you at the dock, because, fishermen, they got a lot of stories. But
yeah, just
if
a
it
few.
didn't happen to me, right, I wouldn't believe it. So like the last 15 minutes of the day, I got about a 2-pounder in my box that I got to get rid of. So I flip into this bush. And this is where I wish I had that heavy action rod, not the medium heavy, because I flip into a bush and this fish just pounded this bait, shook the bush, swam out of that bush into another one, shook that bush, wrapped me around it, and then just hung me in this bush. So that's where sometimes you get that stiffer rod. You got to control that fish. When they bite it, you got to set the hook and you got to wrench them out of there. Grab a hold of that reel like that old pencil sharpener in high school and just crank them out of that bush. But once you leave them in there, once they wrap you up, you're done. And literally that's what happened. You wrap me up. And if I had more time on the clock, I would have been in the water to get them, because I needed that fish. I needed to get rid of that 2-pounder to at least be in the top 1, 2, or 3. So I ended up having to break them off, ran back, and came in 8th place. And the worst part is once I broke him off, I'm rigging, getting my boat settled down. I'm strapping things in. That fish jumps up out of the water in front of me. I can see my lure in its mouth, shakes its head, and goes right back in. And it was all of 5 pounds easily. So that would have given me a 3-pound upgrade, which would have put me in that top 1, 2, or 3 of that tournament. So definitely controlling fish when you're fishing bushes is critical. It's critical. Bait selection. I will be throwing.
Tear something off that wall. I want to see some good from Bugg's Island.
So I'll be throwing definitely something that looks like a brush hog. This is X-Zone's hog hunter bait. It's like a brush hog people are familiar with. Green pumpkin's always a safe color. If the water's a little muddier, I'll use the same thing, but this Okeechobee with the blue and the green pumpkin.
Okay, so Okeechobee craw.
Yeah, Okeechobee craw. If the water, if the water comes up quickly and brings a lot of sediment with them, so you got that muddy water, then I'll switch to like an Okeechobee craw, and that blue will stand out a little bit better in that muddy water. The other thing I'll throw will be the adrenaline bug, which is like a beaver style bait.
Beaver style bait,
yeah, beaver style bait. Same thing, green pumpkin, but then also they'll have the Okeechobee craw ready to go, depending on the watercolor. Those will be primarily my 2 flipping baits that I'll punch into those bushes with. I do like baits that are larger this time of year. I think it just irritates those fish even more. So I do like a bit of a larger bait. Like these hog hunters they're pretty long. They're a 6-inch bait, but it's very similar to, like a brush hog style bait.
Mm-hmm.
This is really good for if you got bushes with a lot of limbs. It slides in there nice and gets right down to the base of that tree. That's really critical, as I said, is you got to get to the base. The base of that bush is where the fish are going to be held up. So those will be my 2 primaries. As I said, I'll have a rattle trap on. I'll have a jerk bait on in shad pattern colors. This time of the year on Bugg's Island, it'll be, as I said, a shad pattern, some reflective silver, blackback, blueback, that type of color. Bugg's Island is a blueback herring lake. And the fish tend to follow those blueback herring wherever they may be. You're going to find bass around them. So you want to kind of imitate anything that looks like a blueback herring. So
right.
I know some lakes you're going to be more bluegill, sunfish, but Bugg's Island, they introduced blueback herring in here, a few years ago, and they've really taken off, and it's really changed how you fish Bugg's Island.
Absolutely, absolutely. So really cool. You pointed out X Zone Lures. Big shout out to Jim Van Ryan. He's the owner
Yeah,
of X Zone Lures. I work with him personally with the Rod Glove, the most
yeah.
fantastic rod organization system out there. He's got gloves. He's got all kinds of different
Got
ways
it, man.
to organize rods. Yep, there we go, right there. G-Man certified. So please check him out. X Zone Lures, the Rod Glove. Jim's great people. So that's
You
awesome.
know,
So
he's a great dude, man. He's a great dude. I love that guy. Just a quick
does
other
a
little
lot for
story.
the industry too.
What's that?
Does a lot for the industry too.
Yeah, he does. You know, a quick story. I'm fishing the Toyota Series this year up on Champlain in the St. Lawrence, and I'm a smallmouth guy, so I reached out. I sent Jim a quick email. I said, "Hey, Jim, I'm going up to Champlain and St. Lawrence this year. Can we collaborate together? You know, I understand your baits are fantastic for smallmouth. I haven't smallmouth fished in a lot of years. I said, I got to load up. And man, he just stepped up and took care of me and just, I can't say enough about the guy. I mean, I can't say enough about him. He's just been fantastic to work with. His whole
You know,
company.
Jim, not only is he a very giving person, but just his personality, how he conducts himself professionally,
Yeah.
and how he is talking about fishing. We need more of that in America. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. We need more of that in America. We
We
really do.
absolutely do. And, it's guys like Jim and Cass King and even the Z-Max folks behind me. They're just down to earth, good people. And those are the people that I kind of want to partner myself and wrap myself around, They're just good people.
Absolutely.
And I love
You
doing
know,
stuff.
and that's what we really focus on here at Revital Outdoors too. You know, we focus on all outdoor enthusiasts. But just real quickly, and I'm not going to get off on a tangent. I'm just going to say it the way it is. When I think about fishing and getting in the outdoors, I think about times with my dad. My dad was a single parent. Growing up in Oklahoma, he did the very best he could for me. The best thing he ever did was put a fishing rod in my hand. And when I think about fishing, I don't think about politics. I don't think about any of the other extracurricular things you see on the news right now. I don't think about social media. I think about the way that we should be, and that's getting in the outdoors and encompassing and enjoying what God created for us. And it's just a great sport. More parents, I feel like, need to get out there and introduce their kids to fishing and hunting as well. I can say for damn sure, if you introduce your kids to fishing, they will never have enough money to get themselves in trouble. So it's a great sport. We need more of it.
That is very true.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, Tim, man, it's been great talking to you about Bugs Island, Kerr Lake. Phenomenal finish last year, top 10. Thank you for coming on to our podcast. What's your predictions for this year? Is the weather and everything lining up to be kind of the same? What weight-wise do you think it's going to take this year? I mean, what's all happening this year?
So there's two tournaments coming up. We got one on the 5th and then one, I think it's like the 11th or 12th. The one on the 5th, it's still going to take 20 pounds for me to feel comfortable. Last year, I think I came in, maybe it was 17 pounds, I forget now, but it's going to take 20 pounds, both tournaments, for me to feel comfortable. I really think the second tournament is going to be the bigger bags, is my feeling. Is that one on I think it's the 11th or 12th. I got to look at my calendar. But I think the bigger bags are going to come on that tournament. I was out this past weekend. The water temperature is 48 to 51. It's still a little bit low. I was kind of hoping to be a little bit warmer. We've got some rain coming in, which is going to help a little bit. But I still think you're going to need 20 pounds to feel good, to feel really good. So if you got like 18 to 20, you're probably going to be in that top 10 mix easily someplace. But I know the field is going to be pretty full. We're going to probably have a full field on the 5th and probably again at the Piedmont division after that.
Fantastic. So, well, Tim, it's a great honor having you on our little podcast. Real quick before we go off air, I just want to give you the chance to thank any of the people that you've associated with. You've mentioned them throughout the podcast, but anybody that supports you, your friends, family, sponsors. I know it takes a lot of group of people to support all of the anglers out there, so we just want to give you that chance to thank all those folks.
Yeah, I definitely like to thank Cass King. I was with another rod and reel company last year, and I just sent my information over to Cass King, and Al over there called me up one day, and we talked for hours. And he said, "Hey, you want to come over with us?" And I'm like, "Sounds great, Al." We hit it off immediately. And Cass King is another one of those companies that they're very personable. They want to do what's right for the industry first, and the angler first, And the angler could be anybody. It could be me. It could be the parents with the kids. They've got great products that are innovative and they're affordable. They're innovative. I couldn't even believe, if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see I did a comparison between a Cast King reel and one of the competitors' popular reels. And I couldn't believe the quality of their products. So I can't say enough about Cast King. Great company. Of course, X-Zone and Rod Glove, Jim, just super dude, super guy, super company. Loves supporting people like him. And, I kind of got,
you have quite a bit of baits there, but when I see that, what I think about is X-Zone is a one-stop shop. Like, they have baits from the creature baits to swim baits to drop. They've probably got the best, I should not say this, but they've probably got the best drop shot bait out there on the market today.
That's why I called Jim originally, because people were bragging about his drop shot baits. I'm like, I got to get some of these. So that's why I reached out to him originally. And then I looked at their assortment and selection. I'm like, oh my God, I will never be rich because of Jim. Because he cost me a lot of money. Yeah.
In X-Zone, it was kind of like a little known secret. Not a lot of people talked about it. And then this guy named Brandon Polodic, I think he pushed a few good tournaments out there. He kind of make it known, his YouTube channel and all that. And it's like, well, the secret's out of the bag now. So,
Yep. Then, of course, Z-Max. They're kind of new to the fish. They're big into racing, big into drag racing. That's how they started. But just phenomenal lubricants that I've used, fishing reel lubricants, various trailer bearing lubricants. I lubricate my talons with it. Just amazing micro lubricant products that they're not a topical product. They actually absorb into the base metal, giving you protection from the inside out and lubrication from the inside out. So check them out, zmax.com. Go to castking.com. Amazing stuff at Cast King. And of course, don't forget X-Zone and the Rod Glove as well. So great companies.
For sure. So, well, Tim, it's been an honor having you on our podcast this evening. Good luck in your 2022 tournament season. We hope to have you back on. Sounds like you're very dialed into Bugg Island and Kerr Lake. So I feel like we're going to be talking to each other very, very soon, because that means you had a strong 2022 season. And man, just thank you for taking the time to join us.
Hey, anytime, man. Anytime you need somebody to talk to, you want to talk fishing, give me a shout, man. I love talking fishing.
Real quick before we get off here, how does anybody that's listening to this podcast, how do they get a hold of you? How can they follow you in your tournament career?
Well, if you go to timkfishing.com, go to my website. You can also go to Tim K Fishing and Outdoors on Instagram, Facebook, and my YouTube channel. But if you go to timkfishing.com, you'll find links to all my Instagram stuff, all my Facebook. Everything will be right there. There's some sponsor links there. You can get some great discounts on my sponsors from there. So check it out, timkfishing.com. You'll find me. Send me some questions. I love talking fishing, so I'll tell you anything you want to know.
Absolutely. So, well, from all of us at Revital Outdoors, I'm Theron Asbury. Again, we've been talking to Tim Kowalewski from Bugg Island. He got a top 10 finish last year in the BFL tournament there, so we wish him all the best of luck, and all of the anglers competing on Bugg Island, Kerr Lake in the upcoming few weeks. So good luck to all you guys. As always, God bless. Be safe out there, and we will talk to everyone on the next podcast.